Hi, it's Cindy from Quilters Covered in Ankeny, Iowa, and I just wanted to show you our row for the row by row experience. I wanted to show you today how we do the stems on our flowers. I did this row because it not only looks cute, I think, but it gives you a bunch of different techniques that you might not have tried otherwise. So a few minutes ago, I showed you how to make the hexagon flowers. And now I'm going to show you how to do the stems just using your regular sewing machine. So what I need is a little bit of embroidery floss, and if you have purchased the kit from us, all your floss will be in there. And so I need to have a couple finished hexagons, which we do. I need a little embroidery floss, and I need a baby lock sewing machine. Only kidding. You need a baby lock sewing machine, but you can use any sewing machine to do this with, if you have a zigzag stitch. So this is the background. This is what I'm using for my sample to show you guys how to do the stems. This is just a lightweight piece of muslin. So before you get started, take your best press and just spray the heck out of it. You could also put a stabilizer behind, but we're doing enough stitching in one place that your fabric's probably going to gather up on you. So to avoid that, if you can make this kind of stiff as a board with your best press, you're going to be in really good shape. A wash away or a tear away stabilizer on the underside will also work wonderfully. So before you sew on any of your hexagons, you want to do your stitches. So we're just going to pretend that those are where I want my pretty flowers. And I'm going to have my stems go like that. Now, I'm using a friction pen, which is a heat erase, so if I touch my iron to this, it's gone. I'm a horrible drawer, so the chances of that being just where I wanted those on the first shot, not so good. So I could have gone to my iron and tried again. So we're going to leave those there. Then I'm going to remove my flowers. Now, I want my stems at least a ½ inch longer so they can get tucked underneath my flower. So we look like we're in pretty good shape. Okay, so I will remove my flowers. Now I did 2 different stems, and I will show you how to do both. So I'm going to cut my little piece in half. So my bigger flowers have a little bit thicker stem because bigger flowers tend to. So I'm going to come to my machine. Now you can fiddle around with some decorative stitches, but on this one I used just a straight stitch. But I increased my stitch length to 4 because I wanted it to be just a little bit longer. So I'm going to fold my floss in half so I've got the fold at the top, and I'm going to start with my fold at the top, and I'm going to lay my little loop down there. And I have beautiful orange thread in here today to show you so you can see the contrast, but a variegated works great. It kind of gives that realistic lights and darks to stems. And we're going to take a stitch here. Now, my machine has what's called a pivot function, so it's going to automatically raise and lower my presser foot when I stop, which I really, really like. So I'm going to take a couple stitches, and I'm actually going to back stitch as well, just to hold it in place. Okay. So once I've overlapped, and I can kind of pull this, I'm going to take 3 straight stitches. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3. And then all I'm going to do is just flip my thread over, one on top of the other. Hold it pretty snug, take 3 straight stitches. My foot's going to lift, and if not, just lift your presser foot and twist. And if you do 4 instead of 3, it's not that traumatic. Now, mine is pulling a little bit because I wanted you guys to see that, so that's part of the reason I didn't stiffen mine quite as much. So a stabilizer behind works really well. Now I'm doing 3 stitches because I really like that look, but what if you did 2 stitches or 1 stitch? We'll do that for a second so you can see the difference. There's 2. Now we'll head down to 1 stitch. And I'll be honest, the reason why I do 4, a lot of it is because I got tired of turning this thread over every time. And I thought it looked a little bit better with a little bit. I'm going to take just a couple more stitches and then we'll go ahead and cut our threads. Okay, so if you can see, so here, I don't know, hopefully you guys can see close enough, and I should show you on my really pretty one instead. So this one is 4 stitches in between. So it gives it a really pretty kind of a rope-like look. When I accidentally, when I accidentally took an extra stitch, I've got way too much space there. That one wasn't pretty. The 1 stitches really looks just like a rope, very pretty. That takes too long for me. The 2 was a really nice look. So fiddle around. One stem could be one stem could be something different. So that is what I used on my larger stems coming down. Now, for my big flowers. So for the little flowers, oh, and I should tell you that I also extended it this way so that my raw edges are hiding underneath my jar lid. Okay, so let's do the little guys now. So the little guys, that's just a zigzag stitch. So we're going to go just to our standard zigzag, but I need it to be a little bit wider. Again, I did a 4.0 millimeter, so that tends to be my go-to. And my stitch length, I did a 2.5. Now your machines might vary just a little bit, and part of the fun is being able to play around with them. You may use something completely different, but for those of you that haven't done it before and you're like, oh my lord, I have no idea how to do that, that's why I'm doing this for you today. So I'm going to start again at the top, and I'm using that fold just because it gives me then something to hold on to. Now, I'm still going to take just a stitch just to grab it. That's okay if it split the floss. So this time, rather than separating my strands, I'm going to keep my strands together and I'm going to try and lay them flat, and I want my zigzag just to go over my strands. So if you need to have a little bit wider zigzag, that's fine. And you'll just kind of shape it as you go down your stem. You want to make sure that it curves really nice and pretty and doesn't just look like a straight stick. Because we're not doing a stick, we're doing a pretty stem. And my suggestion also is you go a little bit slower. I'm not real good at going slow. For those of you that know me, there we go. And is it necessary to tie it off? It really isn't, because it's going to get underneath something, but you sure can if you want to. Alright, so there's my zigzag over my stem. So again, a contrast thread is neat, but the variegated threads are spectacular. And that tends to lay a lot nicer and flatter because your stitches are closer together. So if you're having problems with it puckering, put your stitches a little closer together. So the two stitches and skip, that worked really well and didn't have any pucker like I did up here. So once you have done your stems, then you're going to set your flowers on top, stitch around, if you can see my little blanket stitch, and then I have my stems underneath. I went ahead and put my jar lid, put my jar down, but before I sealed my jar down, I put my little bit of pink embroidery floss, actually is underneath here like a channel, so that my raw edges came out. And we did Iowa 2015. Obviously, if you are from another state, you can just find a little shape somewhere out online, do yours. And I did a little bit of hand embroidery. The outline of my state, I used the triple straight stitch. So if you can see, if you guys are familiar with the triple straight stitch, this is another one of my favorite stitches. And so what it's going to do is do forward, backward, and forward. So it gives you a much nicer, dense stitch. It also works kind of pretty for this, and it looks a little bit more involved. So this is it in a zigzag form. And this is it, so forward, backward, forward. And it's just a heavier. It does a great, looks more like a top stitch. Alright, so that's that little, nice little dent stitch. So it mimics a hand embroidery stitch quite lovely. So I think that's all I have to show you today. We appreciate you very much you watching this. Have fun making your row. If you have any questions, you can always give me a call. Thanks so much.